All right, so what do you think when I tell you the term co-design? What's the first thought that comes into your mind? Any takers? Design with. All right, people. Any other takers? What's the first thing that comes to your mind when I tell the term co-design? Mm-hmm. Multiple stakeholders. All right. So what do you think about involving youth in co-design? Absolutely. Yes, I see a lot of thumbs up and a lot of yeses. So that's what our panel is all about today, co-designing with youth and involving them in our research journey. And most importantly, learning from them about their needs, thoughts, and what they really need to so that they can support our research work. So now I will pass it on to Dr. Zach Alstead and our youth panels to talk more about that. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. So I'll just very briefly introduce a little bit about the background here and what we all share in common, but the most boring thing possible would be if I were just talking the whole time. So this is very much a co-presentation and also very much a presentation with all of you too. I know there are a lot of people out there. We had a fantastic discussion yesterday about co-design and would love to hear about the differences in experience that are in this room. So I guess the common variable that we have here is kind of Landmark, which is a college specifically for students who are neurodiverse and is very focused on increasing accessibility and education for neurodiverse people. And so I'm from Turk. I'm a senior researcher. My name is Zach Alstead, and I am also someone who is neurodiverse. I am diagnosed with ADHD and dyslexia, and a part of my project is developing augmented reality systems to help improve access for students with executive function issues through augmented reality. So how can we use augmented reality to change the dynamics of how people engage in STEM activities? And so one beautiful change that has happened recently is the inclusion of co-designers in much of the work we do and many of the projects that we are involved in, and how much that has contributed to the richness of the information that comes out of these kinds of projects. So we have 3 co-designers with us across a variety of different projects at Turk, and would love it if you would all just kind of introduce yourselves, and how about you say who you are, where you're from, and where you would like to go, maybe in the next 5 years or so.
Hi, I'm Becky. I am from UVM, though I transferred from Landmark. And I am currently thinking about going into animal cognition research or something related to research in animal science.
Hi. Give it a second. There we go. Okay. Hi, I'm Valentina, or just Val. I am from Puerto Rico, but I'm studying at Landmark right now. And I am very cold. I think where I'd like to go, well, I actually am going to be going into a full-time position next summer in New Jersey, but I'm not letting that limit my options, because something that I've learned over the last couple days here is that I'm a little bit more interested in research than I thought I was. So, yeah, thank you.
Hi, I'm Alex. I grew up in Maine, but I live in Cambridge now. And I work at Turk as part of the Augmented EF program. And I'd like to go into bioinformatics, so I'm going back to school for that in January.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I'm sorry. And Gerald's here. Gerald, will you come up? We would love it if you would join us.
Gerald, jump scare.
Please. So, okay, Gerald is also another co-designer and a wonderful surprise. It's a wonderful surprise that we have,
Surprise panelist.
yes, surprise panelist. Come on up,
Bonus
Gerald.
round. We're putting the pressure on the production here. You need to give us an extra mic, or we can share.
Testing, testing. Oh, hi. Hi, my name is Gerald Belton. I'm from Fort Washington, Maryland. I'm a graduate from Landmark College. And after graduating with my BA in computer science, I wanted to grow and do more and to do better while focusing on my well-being and my mental health. So I guess I'm more taking, a straightforward and direct approach to data science and other sides of computer science and information technology. So I just can't wait for the future and what it holds.
Fantastic, and I'm so glad you're here. All right, so one issue I think I see in the field is we've created all these institutions and schools and systems that many times filter for cognitive homogeneity, right? And then hope to maybe get some creativity out of this process. And many of maybe the most creative and neurodivergent people are filtered out of this. And so I wonder if we could maybe start with Becky and just talk a little bit about what your experience has been working as a co-designer in emerging technology research, if you would.
So my experience, we were making a VR game. Is it on?
Maybe.
Hold it a little closer and
Okay. During my experience, we were making a VR game that was based on being neurodivergent friendly and also having a lot of STEM education involved in it. I worked a lot on communication with some alien creatures we'd created, and we implemented a lot of things such as keeping dyslexia in mind for a lot of the communication aspects to make it so there was less text, maybe more symbols and colors involved in that, or additional symbols and colors, keeping in mind things like sensory overload. And part of having the team being neurodivergent students meant that we could directly say, like, I tend to have this issue when I'm playing a VR game, or this is something I would like to see that I don't see in a lot of other games. And it was very helpful in that aspect to be able to build the game through our own experiences and through our own feedback. And we ended up having this connection because we were sharing more personal things, where the internship felt not like a internship or a job, but like a group of friends trying to create a game together, because we just got to know each other and what things we liked and didn't like.
Fantastic. And we also were doing much of this remote because it was during COVID, right? How did that sort of change the dynamics of how you were able to engage?
Well, since a lot of the Landmark crew was all in one place and the Turk crew was all in one place, it meant that a lot of times all of us at Landmark could, if we just bumped into each other between classes, we would sometimes bring up things we were thinking about, even when we weren't at meetings. During meetings, we all had to listen. Like, there wasn't a lot of talking over each other, even though we definitely tried. And we got to we were listening more, I think. And we also had a lot of breakout groups. We had a weekly meeting that was one-on-one with someone on the Turk side and the Landmark side. That meant we got to have a lot more of a personal experience and a lot more focus on whatever we were working on, instead of as a general aspect as a group. And I think those definitely impacted and really helped the progress that we were doing with the game development.
Fantastic, thank you. Val, I'm wondering, how do you think young people and co-designers can be more involved in this process?
All right, so this is going to be very geared towards my personal experience with the co-design process, which I actually am currently a co-designer for Zach's project, the augmented executive function. But I'm not going to speak universally for all co-designers because everybody has a different experience. Me personally, what we've kind of been doing for context with the co-design has been meeting regularly once a week to just discuss ideas for how the project can move forward and what other ideas we can incorporate into it that have maybe not been considered by the team themselves. And I've found that to be very interesting. A lot of the stuff that we've talked about has been like the technology that is being used, like which augmented reality headsets are have the features that the team is looking for in terms of like getting data input, like the eye tracking, head tracking, that kind of thing. Like what features do we need for this to work the way that we want it to? So we've been heavily involved in looking at different options on the market for augmented reality and comparing and seeing what is a good balance of affordability and the features that we're looking for. But also there's been a lot of contributions from the co-design team in terms of like additional features for helping with executive function that they might not have thought of, like stuff like what kind of like audio are we providing the person who's trying to study, because I don't want to try to explain Zach's project, but well, yeah, okay, art project, yeah. But I feel like you can explain it better, like every time.
You're doing a fantastic job.
Anyway, the idea is to have an application in AR that assists you while you're working on homework as a neurodiverse STEM student. So if you're like getting off task, it detects that and provides additional input or feedback to help you stay on task. And we were talking about like, what do we do when we're studying? Like, I like to listen to music. Some people can't listen to anything at all. They can't have like talking in the background. Me personally, I grew up in a 6-person family, so I work best when there's just a lot of people in the room doing their own thing, and I can just tune it out and sort of absorb the passive social energy. So like possible like audio that we could have in the background for that would be like cafe sounds, or just like music of a certain intensity. Like some people listen to metal, some people listen to something more chill like jazz. And like, how can we help induce the flow state by changing the music to something more intense while the person is staying more on task, if that's something that's better for them, or we could have it fade out more as you're more focused. So that kind of thing, like that was a good sort of contribution that we got to make. But also, I've had some thoughts about, like, with my experience doing co-design, I would also like to be a little bit more involved on the technical side, because as a computer science student, I have some knowledge that I'm picking up from my classes that I would love to see sort of examples of how that's actually being applied. And like getting to see like what the code base looks like, I think like sort of gearing more towards what specific skills each individual co-designer can bring to the table as well, in terms of like just seeing what everything looks like and feeling. I think the idea that I'm trying to get at is being more like directly involved with the project. And Zach, you look like you wanted to add something.
No, that's fantastic, and excellent summary too. And if someone was kind of interested in being involved in co-design, what would you sort of say to them, if maybe a friend was? Or
I think that it's an excellent opportunity. I've certainly thought about a lot of new like applications of technology that I never would have thought about before, and like it's a good way to just sort of broaden your like depth of understanding of what technologies we're using for education and for like just helping people in general. So just having those ideas floating around in my head, like sometimes I'll be like doing some random other thing, like working on my capstone project or whatever, and I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember this thing that we were talking about in the co-design meeting that is actually kind of applicable here. And just having that experience is, I think, is very much worth the time investment.
Fantastic. All right, thank you. And Alex, do you think that, how do you think young people and co-designers can be more involved in this process? I'm sorry, wrong question. No, yeah, or that one, or this one. Sorry, I just, what would you, where would you like to see educational technologies go, given what you've seen so far?
Yeah, so I'd like to see more research and development on hardware. That's been a big problem with our project, and talking with a lot of people here, I think they're struggling with that too, is this big sensory overhead and clunky headsets. And so making that smaller and making that more easy to use, I think that would be really great, and making it more accessible as well.
Absolutely, and that sensory overhead component is really important in design for neurodiverse students, wherein maybe a headset on your face, very different experience for someone who's neurodiverse. Does anyone want to speak to that, sort of maybe sensory or audio elements or visual elements that might be perceived differently by someone who's neurodiverse?
For a sec. I think that it's kind of a universal design question, actually, because when I was talking about the audio thing, like, that's not just something that it's something that is a bigger factor for neurodiverse students, because it's harder for us to, in general, to maintain that focus state sometimes, because either the sensory aspect is much bigger, or just the difficulty with executive function is much more prevalent. But even then, like, neurotypical people have specific sensory needs as well, and I think when you work with technology like this and you incorporate the different needs of neurodiverse people, you're also more likely to create technology that is useful for customizing for, like, anybody.
And Gerald, I'm so glad this is so great that you stepped in the last moment. We didn't know that we were going to get Gerald. But Gerald, I'm wondering, as an alumni of the co-design process, what elements were specifically memorable, or what did you really take from the experience?
Sorry. What I took from the experience, just looking back 2 years, even during the pandemic, I guess what I took from it was the sense of belonging, and, like, feeling that you belong, and, like, with a group of, like, a lot of STEM interest folks. Sorry, I'm trying to, like, I guess, not be awkward about it, but
you're doing a great job.
Thank you, I appreciate that. But what I also can take from it was, I guess, there's also efforts to, like, make things more accessible to, like, not just neurotypical and neurodivergent people, to, like, but just to also, like, other people, like, even people with who are, like, deaf or, like, hard of hearing. And considering I have someone close who's deaf, and I would love for them to, like, try out this project someday. And I do believe that what we have going on, it's a good step in the right direction for the future.
Fantastic, yeah.
I wanted to say, one of the things that I appreciate about working with Turk is that you guys also are, like, either Landmark graduates or ex workers from there, and, like, we kind of, like, we understand, like, yeah. like it's good to be among other neurodiverse people in any situation, and like, when we're doing this co-design thing, I kind of, it's very, like, we can talk about things that make sense to us, that it might be a little bit harder to communicate if we were working with a neurotypical research team, and it makes it feel more like we're being heard and listened to.
Excellent. So I guess there's 10 minutes left, and we want to leave a little bit of time for questions. Again, there are a lot of other projects in the room that have incorporated some element of co-design. So if you want to maybe ask some questions or chat about that a little bit, we'd love to hear it. Or maybe you want to ask college students how they're using ChatGPT in your classrooms. okay.
Runner.
I just wanted to second what I think Valentina said, is that when you put together systems that address particular needs, it's good for everybody. And in my work, I do speech processing. I always tell my students the example of Edison, right? So he started off as a teacher of the deaf, or wanting to build something to help deaf kids, and then the telephone was invented. So I think addressing these issues is really critical, and I think not much, I mean, it needs to be more incorporated in many things. So the question that I have, just from a practical point of view, when you do the co-design, you do it with individual students, or do you do it with a practitioner who has had experience with individuals, various individuals?
When we do co-design, we're working directly with these students, and another important component of that is developing their capabilities in research, their technical capacity, working directly with software developers, and then developing these skills that will serve them beyond just that experience in the co-design process. Anyone else want to speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, we are meeting with the researchers and talking about what they're working on and what we would like to see in the project, like we both learn from each other. Like they learn from us, like what we would like to see, what like things that can be added, or like that just might have gone by the wayside. I feel like I've said that a million times, but and then also just we learn like what kind of questions that they're asking as they're doing the design for this, and like how can we engage in that same kind of thinking in order to both contribute to the project and to do any kind of design work in our own lives. And like it's about like asking what questions are we asking when we're researching the current technologies that exist, when we're like just trying to figure out like what is important here, what do we want to focus on. So it's very useful skills, and I feel like we're pretty directly involved.
I would also add that it's really beneficial on both sides. On the side for Turk and the people developing the project, having it someone who is working with neurodivergent people is never going to have the experience of the actual person that they are working with. And that's going to be true no matter if it's neurodivergent people, if it's youth in sports, if it's anything. Even if you're talking about a non-human subject, if there's a way to communicate, that's going to be the ideal subject that you want to communicate with and be talking to, and it's not always easy, but it's going to get you a better result and a more accurate result. And on the student side of things, it's a really great learning opportunity, and it's really great to be able to see, like I designed 2 different animals that would be in the VR game, and now I can see my sketches as actual VR 3D images that are used in the game, even though it's still in development. I know that a lot of what Gerald is working on in our group with developing what the character would look like ended up being a major part of what it's ended up being, and that feeling of being like I am still a student and I'm someone who probably in the past would not have been considered for this game that was, even though it was meant for me, I was not part of it. And now I can see the things that I designed actively being a part of the final product is a really great feeling, and it's really empowering for students, even students that didn't work on it that may be using this in the future, saying, I can see that this other student that was neurodivergent worked on this, and that could mean that I could do that someday, and that I have that power, and I have not limited to anything.
Is it on? All right. Yeah, and I think something I'd like to add to that is something Turk and Zach have done really, really well is they have chosen projects that they are extremely passionate about, and that radiates throughout the entire team. So for UPIs out there thinking of getting co-designers involved, make sure that you communicate that passion, because it will really help them out.
Well, it wouldn't be anything without all of you. So, So any other questions from the room or experiences from other co-designers or people involved? Yeah, go ahead.
Hi. Co-design is a time commitment, and I'm wondering what convinced, if you have any examples of what convinced you to be willing to do that time commitment. And if you're willing, what might have convinced you that it wasn't worth it?
I'm surprised that this didn't come up already, but money. We are getting paid. That's a big factor. But also just I mean, it's been a rewarding experience. I wouldn't have stuck around for the 3 semesters that I have if I wasn't also like enjoying seeing the product develop and just like having a good time working with the team. So.
And many of you came from education and maybe were in a classroom or maybe are still in a classroom, but maybe that research transition has taken you out of that classroom and you spend more time in front of spreadsheets, which is kind of unfortunate. So co-design gives you another opportunity to make real connections with the students themselves or participants. Yeah. Any other thoughts on that? Go ahead.
Also, I know that at least within my project that I was working on with them, I was not the only one that when our internship ended after the 2 semesters, I was in it, I think 3 for Gerald, or 4?
A little over like 3 or 4.
Yeah. That most of us were asking, like, can we keep doing this in some way? Because we were actively enjoying what we were doing, and it's a really great experience. Whether you want experience for resume or it's like, I just want to explore lots of different things and how this can connect to what I want to do, whether it's directly relevant or just this is something that's interesting to me. And I think also just the interactions we ended up having with the Turk team and the other Landmark students, as well as like that connection that you build during different communities is really important, whether that is something that feels more like a friendship versus like this is a boss that I am getting kind of tired with, this is a job, or this is something that is a fun project I'm doing. And I think that co-design really can get into that I'm enjoying this and being productive at the same time with people who are also really enjoying this and who I'm connecting with and building friendships with, and not just that boss mentality.
To add on to what Becky was saying, it also felt more like, we were actually like, making an effort to like get to know each other, to like get to know each other's learning routines and all that, instead of just, being forced to like coexist and to like do this task or do that task. It just felt more like, we were like, as cliche as it seemed, it felt like a family in a sense, I
definitely agree. Fantastic. So are there any other questions in the room? Co-designers, people interested in potentially adding a co-design element to future projects and wondering about how that might happen. I'll also mention it's easy to recruit for a VR, AR study with new educational technologies, and many of the projects in here are easy to recruit for, as I think, compared to other fields, but I'm biased, so. Yeah, so what about, we're almost out of time, and maybe just a closing thought about maybe how you'd like to use what you've learned in co-design?
Didn't we have like a closing question that was like...
Okay, yeah, we do have a closing question. Yeah, I'm going off the rails. Thanks for keeping me on the rails, Val.
I wanted to talk about that, so...
Yeah, let's see here. The closing question we have for you is, what is your dream, or is there an imaginary dream research that you might want to do? Maybe we can start with Gerald.
Okay.
Yeah.
Truthfully, because of like how wide the variety of ideas are, I kind of want to like, I guess, take a step back and to just see what my options are, what my options aren't, and what is available in my reach, instead of just reaching way too high and being too ambitious. So I think it'd be better for my friends to answer.
I just want to say that you can't be too ambitious. There's nothing you can't do, so don't.
When you're in New York.
Yeah, so I have two ambitions for research projects going on right now. One is educational applications of rock climbing. I'm a competitive rock climber, and through that, I've met a lot of people in STEM who also rock climb, and I'd like to discover the relationship between those two activities. And the other is studying cardiology and bioinformatics.
For me, I was doing a research paper last semester, and I found a lot of research having to do with incorporating technology with acoustic music in some really interesting ways. Like there was a gesture follower with string instruments that would add modulation to the sound they were producing based on what gestures the musicians were performing, and there was a little device that you would put next to an instrument, and it would filter the sound and just create new electronic sounds with low overhead. And so I just think something having to do with music and technology and just I don't know. I just think that music tech is really cool, and there's some cool stuff that can be done with not just creating new sounds with digital music, but incorporating the two types of the two quote unquote paradigms. I don't know. I'm not super knowledgeable about the research in that, and I know there's a bunch, but just I really like sounds that have that fusion of the traditional and the modern. So doing research, experimenting with that, getting to make cool experimental music tech. I would love to do stuff like that.
Very cool.
I love animals, so I very much want to do something in animal cognition research, but I also have a really heavy engineering background, and I ended up finding myself, once I transferred to UVM, working in the Makerspace lab and just pushing a lot of 3D printing and laser cutting into the animal science department and trying to integrate that, kind of what this workshop ended up being about, of integrative technology. And I think there's a lot of uses to that within animal science and other life science fields. And I've been thinking about exploring that a lot more, trying to push a lot more virtual dissection programs and other things like that, even stepping back from animal science to more general biology, medical, or chemistry or other life science fields that probably aren't considering anything other than the S in STEM, that they could be exploring engineering and technology a lot.
I just want to say I'm so glad that we have a biologist on this panel, instead of just all computer scientists, because you've said some really interesting things. So.
Thank you.
All right. So a big round of applause for our co-designers. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you. All right.
Thank you so much. I think we need to hear a little bit louder round of applause for these youth panelists. They really showed us the value of co-designing with youth and involving youth in our research. So yes, think about it as we move forward in our journey. Next, we have lunch. Who doesn't love food, right? All right, so before we do that, if you remember, there was an optional scavenger hunt that you got to do yesterday, and some of you did. So now I would like to welcome my colleague, Dr. Cassandra Kelly, who will announce our winners.
I have prizes. Thank you for participating. Judy and I wanted to just help everyone feel welcome and to promote conversation and get you to learn more about one another and about just the different people that are here in the room. So we really appreciate you taking time to do that. And our first winner is David Jarbo. If you're here, we have a $10 Starbucks gift card to show our appreciation. Our Our next winner is a run. I saw you earlier. Maybe he stepped out, so we'll save it for him. And for third place, so we had 3 levels. It was actually very challenging because we had some people who were really fast but didn't get all of the blanks filled out. So I wanted to first name the top 3 last ones. So it was Valerie Crawford, Amy Hardenbrook, and Lori Jackas. And despite the timeliness, again, we were also looking to see if you could talk to more people or fill in more names and have more conversations. So the third place winner, drum roll, is Valerie Crawford. Come on up. Oh, good. A run, you won. Congratulations. And even though we don't have more prizes, you can still take a scavenger hunt and get to know other people because that's what it's all about, really. So thank you.
Thank you, Cassandra, for organizing the scavenger hunt. We really appreciate you. All right, so now it's time for lunch. We will come back in a little bit and we will go over the strategy sessions. So please come back into this room and I will call upon our dear friend and colleague, Dr. Wendy Martin, to go over our strategy sessions next. Thank you.